Hello and welcome to Performance Check. My name is Rob, and I have returned for another D&D retrospective. And this is going to be an interesting one. I'm approaching it in a slightly different way. Most of the time when you hear about D&D modules, you hear of a few of the big names. I think probably the most common and the most cited would be the Tomb of Horrors, for good or ill. Often ill, for good reasons and bad reasons. You hear about Keep of the Borderlands, for the quintessential sandbox D&D experience, perhaps. But then there's the module that I'm here to talk to you about tonight, from a place of complete ignorance. I have never played Red Hand of Doom. Yet. It is a module, it is a piece of material that has been on my peripheral since before I can, well, for a long time, and I can't recall when it was I first heard of it, but I've always heard that Red Hand of Doom is up there with one of the greatest adventures ever. And because I'm not in the position where I think I'm ever going to run a module anytime soon, this is kind of what this series, and I'm hoping it's going to be more of a series, is going to be. Me looking into D&D modules and appraising how I would run them as a DM. I'm not going to say critique the work at all, because I don't believe that is my place. All I'm going to do is examine what is in front of me and just talk about it and talk about how I'd go about running it, basically. And hopefully that is interesting to some people. I see we've already got someone in the chat, Harsh Flamingo. Yo to you as well. Glad to have you join me. A little bit haphazard today. All a bit of a rush to get this stream going. So do bear with me if it's a bit thrown together today. It's an interesting it's going to be an interesting one. So we will see how it goes. Harsh Flamingo says, I'm the one that posted I ran it on AT. Great to have you join, and it'd be really good to have your feedback as well, and perhaps your insight regarding this, because like I say, never run it before, but I'm going to go through it as if I'm about to for the first time. Just imagine I have a group of players waiting to play a module that I'm going to run. This is the module, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. Ollie Frankie is in the chat. Hey Ollie, how you doing? That's an adorable emote that you've put in there. So without further ado, let's get talking about Dungeons and Dragons Red Hand of Doom. If there's ever maps or anything like that, I will do my best to zoom in. Let's credit the artists, Richard Baker and James Jacobs. This is something like 128 pages altogether. It is an epic, so we will see how far through we will get. It might have to be multiple parts. I don't want to say for definite it will be, but we're just going to go with it and see what happens. Really excited to go through this, and the only thing that I have read of this adventure is the introduction, the flavor text that sort of drops you straight into it. So I thought that would be a good way to drop those watching today, joining me into the adventure. Let's see how it goes. The dry hilltops danced with fire. Throughout the heart of the wild Badlands, the humans, called the Worm Smokes, great bonfires had been kindled atop the ridges overlooking Elsia Vale. There, thousands of warriors had gathered, hobgoblins in armour dyed scarlet, thick-thewed bugbear berserkers, goblin warg riders, and skirmishers and archers, and the scaled ones as well, who often towered over the rest. For so long they had fought each other, tribe against tribe, race against race, engaged in the endless test of battle, feud, and betrayal. But tonight they stood together. Hated enemies, shoulder to shoulder, shouting together as brothers. And they saw that they were strong. And together they danced and sang and shook their blades at the smoke-hidden stars overhead. Where are the Kulkazul? Sorry, we are the Kulkazul, they shouted, and the hills shook with the thunder of their voices. We are the people of the dragon. Ukulth Naghagai. None can stand before us. One by one the tribes fell silent, armour creaked, as thousands turned to look up to the place of speaking. There, a single champion emerged from the assemblage and slowly climbed the ancient stone stair cut into the side of the hill. 100 bright yellow banners stood beneath him, like a phalanx of spears, each marked with a great red hand. The war priests holding the banners chanted battle prayers in low voices as the champion ascended. On the 100th step he stopped and turned to face the waiting warriors. He was tall and strong, one of the hobgoblin chieftains. But dull blue scales gleamed along his shoulders, and jutting horns swept back from his head. I am Azar-Kul, son of the dragon, he cried. Hear me, warriors of Kulkazul. Tomorrow we march to war. The warriors roared their approval, stamping their feet and clashing spear to shield. Azar-Kul waited, holding his hands aloft until they quieted again. The war priests of the Doom Hand have shown us the way. They have taught us honour, discipline, obedience, and strength. No more will we waste our blood fighting each other. We will take the lands of the elf, the dwarf, and the human, and make them ours. Under the banner of the Red Hand of Doom, we march to victory and conquest. Remember that you stood here this night, warriors of Kulkazul. For 100 generations, your sons and your sons' sons will sing of the blood spilled by your swords and the glory you win in the nights to come. Now, my brothers, to war! The burning hills were too small to hold the shout. The Kulkazul gave in answer to their warlord's call. My goodness me, what an evocative piece of writing to start off the module. I slipped on a few of the names. I probably should have spoke them aloud a few times before doing that. I think that's actually a pretty good tip for anyone reading big chunks of text with when preparing to run a module or preparing to read material perhaps you've even written. Definitely say it out loud a few times, because I forget to do that sometimes. I'll have blocks of text that I will read sometimes. Don't read it aloud. You need to read them aloud just to get the feeling of it. So what an incredible opening. War is gathering in the dry brown hills known as the Wormsmoke Mountains. And as midsummer settles over the land, smothering everything in heat and dust, the fierce warriors of the Kulkazul, people of the dragon, in the hobgoblin tongue, gather beneath the dreaded Red Hand banner, ready to sweep down out of the worm smokes and conquer the human lands below. Your player characters face an onslaught of fire and steel, the likes of which few have ever seen. My goodness me. So that is really evocative. I mean, if someone put that as an interest post, I would immediately throw my hat in the ring saying, I need to play this game. It is, as Harsh Flamingo says in the chat, such a badass intro. It really is. It really does set the tone immediately. And, I mean, it's, it's really, really evocative. you immediately get the idea of the antagonist. You immediately get the idea of the forces arrayed against the player characters, and we haven't even met the player characters yet. So, like many of the modules from this era, just going to close that down. There we go. We don't need that anymore. There we go. So, like I said, like many of the modules in this era, there is a preparation section where, once again, it advises you to... You definitely need the 3 core books of this game to... 3 core books. The Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, and Monster Manual. So, I think we can definitely take that on board. There are also some battle mats that come with this. The map depicts a road cutting through a forested glade and can be used to play out the first encounter, the marauder attack. See page 14. Interesting. So it kind of gives you like the sense of what you're going to need to sort of inform the game. Obviously, you've got the core books, but there's some materials that come with this module as well. It is a big module. It is a full campaign rather than a one and done adventure. So it definitely equips you with that from the get-go. And it gives you an adventure background as well. This is something that is really nice. You can read this and just get a sense of everything that has led up to this point. Again, I'm not going to read through everything like I did with the last retrospective for the Burning Plague. Again, I do respect that this is copyrighted material, but at the same time, I know people stream playing games, so why can't I stream reading a game? I'm sure people will argue with that, and fair enough, but I just like the idea of us examining this as if we're going to run it, and run it, we shall see how we go about it. So the adventure background sets up that for centuries the dry and dusty Wormsmoke Mountains have been home to dozens of goblinoid tribes, and if that opening text hasn't given us like a clear enough image, this details, it would seem that there's always been infighting, there's always been a tension between those tribes, and I would imagine it is probably the greatest fear of all of the elves and dwarves and humans that were mentioned earlier. Their greatest fear is that there would be a leader that would rise to unite these tribes into one common fighting force. Hidden within the mountains lay something hidden that would spell doom, an ancient temple dedicated to Tiamat, queen of evil dragons. Well, there she is, Tiamat herself, iconic villain of the D&D multiverse, the multi-headed chromatic dragon goddess herself. Built hundreds of years ago to serve as the hidden redoubt of a despicable cult of dragon worshippers, the temple was eventually cleansed by a band of heroes from the human city of Rest. For several centuries, the complex lay empty. Then 30 years ago, the young half-dragon hobgoblin warrior Azor Kul discovered the abandoned temple and was awed by the teachings of Tiamat. And he read on the walls therein. Oh my goodness. So this, let's get his name again one more time. So that was Azar Kul. And he is a half-dragon, half-hobgoblin marauder of some kind who has just become inspired by the worship of Tiamat, which is a terrifying thing to consider. Over the next 20 years, Azar Kul grew into a powerful warlord and a mighty priest of Tiamat. Early in his rise to power, he struck up an alliance with the blue dragon Tirgaroon. Bloody dragon names, right? Am I right? Tirgaroon. Yeah, sure. His own sire. Oh, wow. So, his own sire. My goodness me. Well, we won't go into the details of how that happened. I'm sure we as tabletop role-playing game players aren't without imagination. We can surmise what happened there. Yes, wow, goodness me. So he became a fanatic and renamed the tribes that had fallen under his wing, the Kulkar Zol. And he began to lay his plans for the conquest of the Elsia Vale. My goodness me, it's so epic. This insane hobgoblin, driven to this discovery by his own blood, is now uniting all of these tribes under the wing of a dragon cult. It's pretty exciting already, and I'm already with this text, we're getting a clear view of our villain, the major main obstacle. It would seem, at least from the beginning of reading this, he would be the main obstacle of the game, it would seem. We already have like his connection with this dragon cult by blood and by adopting their worshipping as well. It's pretty damn cool. My goodness me. I know I said I wasn't going to run this, but I'm, if anyone's down, I should have said, by the way, as well, spoilers for Red Hand of Doom if you do want to play this. But maybe you can consider this as your like introduction to playing this game. Perhaps we'll run a game. Late last year, Azor Kul and his dragon-worshipping zealots destroyed the last opposition to his supremacy over the Wormsmoke tribes, slaughtering the Black Knight Goblins and the tribes allied to them in a ferocious onslaught. The survivors accepted his suzerainty, I've never used that word before in my life, and were absorbed into his realm. Azar Kul named his new kingdom Ha Kulkor, or Land of the Dragon. This guy is so freaking metal, honestly. After a long season of rebuilding his strength, offering bribes to many of the intelligent monsters in the region, reinforcing the power of his red hand war priests over the disparate tribes he ruled, Azar Kul finally turned his attention to the lands beyond the Wormsmoke Mountains. What he saw whetted his ambition for power. No city or state within hundreds of miles could feed an army as strong as his. The High Worm Lord dreams. Oh my god. The High Worm Lord. Isn't that just the coolest name you've ever heard? The High Worm Lord dreams of carving out a hobgoblin empire stretching from the Sunset Sea to the Golden Plains, and the first step is to crush the human towns of Elsia Vale. My goodness. So there we go. That's the thrust of the adventure. It's the High Worm Lord is bent on taking Elsia Vale. Who's going to stop him? I should point out, it says the Sunset Sea to the Golden Plains. I'm reliably informed that this adventure is not written for any D&D setting. It's not written for Forgotten Realms or Eberron or Greyhawk or anything like that. It is literally just to be dropped into any world, which is pretty cool. Setting agnostic, I believe they say. And then we get the really cool outline. So now you kind of get given the pieces of the puzzle. What are you going to find in this this document that's going to help you piece together a campaign? I always like to think in kind of bullet points, not trying to specify too much what's going to happen, because that ain't really my job as the DM. Well, it kind of is and it kind of isn't. Like you put events in place and then you wait to see how they pan out. That's probably the best way to describe it. At least that's my style. And events there are in this handy list of bullet points. Spying out the movements of Azar Kul's army. Okay, so our players are going to begin by scouting this force. Defeating roving bands of marauders. Grinding, baby. Leading the effort to rally an elf army to meet the Red Hand Horde. Nice. Reaching out for allies. I like that very much. Disrupting an alliance between the Red Hand and a powerful Lich. My goodness. So not only getting allies of your own, but preventing the Red Hand from collecting allies themselves. killing important enemy commanders, champions and monsters. I like that. That makes me think of Shadow of War, going behind enemy lines to take out commanders, so then their forces become weak. That's awesome. And finally, infiltrating the Fane of Tiamat to defeat the Red Hand War Priests and their leader in their secret stronghold. The adventure is divided into 5 parts, describing 5 key locations the PCs are likely to explore in the course of the adventure. That's pretty cool, and it's really handy that it kind of dissects the events of this conflict. And of course, you know as well as I, dear viewers, that if you prepare like one thing, the players will make it into 5 things. Very interesting. Very interesting. So I'm hesitant because I want to go through all of this, but I fear that reading through the whole thing, as you can probably tell, dear viewer, I'm hesitant to go through all of it and to read through all of it because we'll be here till the end of time. But I also want to give like an overview, and I feel like I'll miss things. We will see how we go, because this does tell us the different parts of the campaign. I'm just scrolling down a little bit just to see. Interesting. Yeah, we'll look at this because this does break it down into the 5 parts that we discussed, because then that will at least give us the overview of the campaign, and then we can just go into detail until we feel we've covered enough, or we might have to come back and look at it again, which I'm not opposed to. I do want to do this module justice, and as I don't know anything about it, I think it's important for me to respect what's on the page as well. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm keen to hear what other people think who are watching as well. What would you like to hear of this? Do you want to see it all broken down? Because I kind of do. We'll see how we go. We'll see how we go. Let's see them. So we have part 1. The Witchwood. Okay. I wonder... Oh, I should have looked ahead and gotten the map. Shall we see if we can look at the map very quickly before we begin? That might be a good idea. Let's go back to the contents. I think there was the contents. There was not. It did tell us where the map was. Let's see, the battle map. See page 14. Maybe my copy didn't come with the maps. Should we just jump to page 14 and see if there's a map there? Oh, cool. So all the encounters there is you are provided like a battle map. Oh, that's great. Oh, awesome. And then we can go through it like that. Okay, that's great. No need to worry. There is maps actually within the each page and each encounter page, which is really handy, with the designer notes alongside it as well. Fantastic. We are well equipped indeed. Let's jump back to that overview then. Let's see. So part 1, The Witchwood. The adventure begins when the player characters confront a powerful warband of raiders threatening the small town of Drellin's Ferry. Under the command of Wormlord Koth, the warband of hobgoblins and goblin layers in the ruins of... What does that mean? Under the command of Warlord Koth, the warband of hobgoblins and goblin layers in the ruins of an old keep buried in the dense Witchwood, scouting out the surrounding lands in preparation for an attack. Seeing the Wormlord and his warbands intend to sweep down on Drellin's Ferry and slaughter its inhabitants. In the course of their fight to drive off the marauders, the PCs learn that Koth's warband is just the tip of the spear and that a horde of goblins, hobgoblins, and their allies is marching south. They also learn that their enemies are driven on by the fanatical war priest of Tiamat. Drellin's Ferry can't be saved, but heroes can give the townsfolk time to flee by wrecking a bridge on an old dwarf road the Red Hand horde needs to cross. There, they confront the youngest of the Red Hand's dragon champions, a green dragon named, wait for it, Ozyrandian. Oh, that was alright, actually. Ozyrandian. Oh my gracious me, what a name! These names, I'm stealing that name. I'm sorry, I'm having that. By the end of this part, the war has begun. Thereafter, the PCs divide their time between fighting to stem the advance of the Red Hand Horde and foiling the plans of their other Wormlords, whose work will give the Horde an irresistible advantage if left to run its course. Okay, I gotcha. So, effectively then, what we're discussing is the cinematic entry to the campaign. We know that Drellin's Ferry as a DM is designed to be... is designed to fall. It's meant to fall. So that's pretty cool. We understand, and we're going to see firsthand. The players are going to be shown firsthand the cost of standing against the Red Hand. Very interesting indeed. Gotcha. So again, this is actually just giving you a bit more detail of the list that we had previously, which I really like. I think then in that case, let's take part 1 and look through it as an adventure like that, and then we will jump to the different breakdowns and we can examine how we run that. So first of all, we're talking about the beginning of a campaign then, which is pretty great. We see many beginnings of campaigns. Here we are. We have Harsh Flamingo, who is the veteran of Red Hand of Doom, so really helpful, and says, in fact, I'll bring it up here. Let's see. I can't. Never mind. I'm just going to have to read it. Forgive me, Harsh Flamingo. Please jump into the chat to see this wisdom. I made my PCs basically be an adventuring party from the Vale, and they return home at Drellin's Ferry. They meet some old friends and learn about what's going on. Veteran, lol. Well, you've run the game. In my mind, that means you're a veteran, Harsh Flamingo. And I'd like to compliment you on that decision there, because that being their home is a personally invests the characters. If it's their home that is under threat from the Red Hand, then they are going to be more easily embroiled into the events. Very good. So I wonder if we can just jump to the Witchwood. Again, like I said, there wasn't a table of contents, so I'm just going to skip down. One thing I will say, which I love, this is something that is probably one of the most useful pages of a module. You don't see it in every module either. You get like the timeline. So you actually have the timeline of how the High Wormlord is operating and what the Red Hand are doing. So you have day 1, PCs encounter the marauders near Drellin's Ferry, and then by day 7, the Red Hand horde, say that when you're drunk, marches from Cinder Hill. So you have this timeline that you're working towards. I really enjoy that. I mean, lately in the most recent game that I'm running, I've actually bought a calendar diary and have been marking off the days we go with significant events marked in them. And I find that really, really useful because I know what's going on in other points of the world. It means that the players aren't simply within the eye of a storm. They're part of a greater movement, as it were. And then something really interesting as well, really helpful. Like I said, probably the most useful page of the whole module, I would argue, though it is early days. Playing the villain smart. Azar Cool and the Doom Hand Priests aren't going to sit back and watch while some adventurers derail their plans for conquest. The villains will take steps to advance their diabolical schemes in spite of heroic resistance, and to counter the PC's efforts. The Red Hand Horde is very well organised, with a number of well-placed spies, and the Doom Hand Priests make every effort to report unusual resistance to their superiors. So if anything starts going on that these spies start noticing, all that information is going to be fed back to the High Wormlord, so he can then act accordingly. Very good. Very important to remember that our enemy has eyes and ears everywhere. As the adventure proceeds, the leaders of the Red Hand learn more and more about the PCs and issue orders to their minions for dealing successfully with such a band of heroes. When the PCs are engaged in battle in which a number of low-level enemies such as goblins or hobgoblins or warriors are present, the low-level warriors respond as follows. My goodness me, so it's telling you, like, because of the fact that these players are known, they will go for them, or if they aren't known, how they will act. Unaware of the fact that the PCs are a cut above the run-of-the-mill humans or dwarves or whatever low-level warriors make individuals attacks, trying to cut them down. So, first of all then, it's interesting that because they don't know how good they are yet, enemies will just go for them willy-nilly. But then in the mid-adventure encounters, realising that the PCs are tough opponents, the low-level warriors begin to use cooperative tactics against them. They attempt to flank individual PCs and take them down one at a time. They use the aid of other tactics. That's incredible! Oh, I love that! That is so useful, and also that is providing you with a difficulty curve when you're running this game. I think a lot of people start complaining that player characters get too high level and then it becomes like a challenge to challenge them. But if you're scaling the intelligence and how people are reacting to their player characters in the setting and applying that into tactics of combat encounters, that's really wonderful. So yeah, mid-adventure encounters, they're sort of getting the gist of what the player characters are like. Rumour is getting around about them, so the enemy are beginning to devise strategies of how to defeat them. And then later adventure encounters, low-level enemies give up trying to fight blade to blade and throw themselves on the PC's attempting to start grapples. So the first, oh my goodness, so they then realise that there's no point trying to just cross blades with them. So they've just got to do their best to, like, delay them to allow the more powerful enemies better chances to strike. I love that. That is so cool. And it's such a great idea to, like, make note of the responses of NPCs and enemies against player actions. That is very, very clever. And it says great battles. The key feature of Red Hand of Doom is the inevitable clash of the Red Hand Horde with the forces of good. Unless something extraordinary happens in your game, this great clash will take place near the human town of Brintol around day 42 of the adventure. I am very pleased that there's that little bit of caveat that says, that caveat that says, unless something extraordinary happens. They are very aware that we are playing D&D with dice that create the chaos. Of course, something extraordinary might happen, in which case, take this with a pinch of salt. I love that philosophy. Rather than roll each blow by blow by the thousands of soldiers who take part in this battle of each side, resolve the battle by tallying up victory points for the side of good and consult victory points. Oh my goodness, there's like a mass combat system here. Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's no way that we're going to do this in one sitting, are we? That's incredible. Okay, so hang on. Now we've had this introduced, which is not unlike recent D&D releases, though I'd say not maybe as detailed as that. But there was a D&D release for 5th edition lately, the Dragonlance book, which I actually thought was probably one of the best modules they've released of recent times, having not been overly enamoured with other stuff. But that I thought was pretty good. I do like the Dragonlance setting though, so what can I say? Anyway, all that to say, in that there is they sort of like make note of, you've got to pay attention to who's winning these battles and like what is it costing the forces of good to strike against the forces of evil and so on and so forth, because we're talking about a war here. It's not just about when our player characters triumph. It is about the overall shift of forces within this area. Very, very cool. I love that. Oh my goodness. Right, anyway, enough of this. I'm going to see if we can go to where it just details the first section of this game. And then I think it would be really cool for us to come back and look at each section individually. Let's have a quick look at this map that I've just found. I said I'm going to do one thing and then immediately look at something else. I'm like a kid in a candy shop here. Shop. I said stop. Let's see. Where? I've just completely lost that map. Where was it? I think I've... Here we are. That was playing Villain Smart. There we are. Look at that map. That's fantastic. Okay, so let's see if we can find that ferry settlement then. Where is it? There's Rest that we discovered earlier, which is going to be, it's one of the major cities, situated in the Black Fens. Drellin's Ferry, right here. Okay, right in the centre. For those that you can't see, I'll see if I can zoom in. There we go. Drellin's Ferry. Next to Wrathkeep and Skull Gorge. So freaking metal. I mean, listen, they just drop a whole world on you with this module, don't they? This is a whole setting. Ah, the Fane of Tiamat here. Beautiful. What an excellent setting for a campaign. So we'll do our best to sort of refer back to the map in it, and look, it gives us details of all the settlements. And this, when you're running the game, is very useful because if you know that they're going to a particular settlement, you can read up on it. For example, we're going to be talking about Drellin's Ferry this stream, so let's read about it here. If Denovar is the eastern gateway to Ilse-Vale. Denovar's a small city, apparently. It's conventional and magical, apparently. If Denovar is the eastern gateway to Ilse-Vale, then the small town of Drellin's Ferry is the western. Once a dwarf-made bridge spanned the Elsar River here, but it was destroyed during an epic flood about 100 years ago. Since that time, travellers on the Dawnway have crossed by means of a ferry from which the town gets its name. This is so metal. Drellin's Ferry is described in more detail in part 1 of the adventure. Great, let's go. I'm just going to try and... Right, no more distractions. Let's find part 1 of the adventure. And while I scroll... Was that part 1 right there? Here we are, the adventure start, part 1. I was going to say while I scroll, I'm going to take a swig of beer, but there we are. Just a San Miguel today. Good old San Miguel. I said San Miguel. San Miguel. Right. And remember, we're going to approach this as if we're going to run this, so... Here we are. The Witchwood. Red Hand of Doom opens with a campaign of desperate skirmishes against the marauders, preceding the Red Hand Horde, under the leadership of Wormlord Koth, a powerful war band of goblins, hobgoblins, bugbears, and menaces the small human town of Drellin's Ferry. The PCs quickly discover that the savage raiders plaguing the Witchwood are only the advance guard for a much larger invasion, transforming the skirmishes against the Wormlord's marauders into a desperate struggle to buy time for the folk of Drellin's Ferry to escape. Get out of there, boys! Let's go! The adventure start. The player introduction we present here assumes that you're using the character hook Vault of Wrathkeep. Right, that's on page 5. Back to the Vault of Wrathkeep. Come on, Harsh Flamingo. You knew I had to read that. Let's see, page 5. The character hooks. Why didn't I read this? Oh, okay. We're going to have to read the character hooks because we are starting the adventure. Okay, let's read all the character hooks and then we can decide how we'd approach that. Like we did with the Burning Plague, there were a cool few little character hooks in there. I really appreciate when you're given some hooks because it's definitely good. There's definitely a little bit of jumping. Yes, you're absolutely right. I'm just teasing Harsh Flamingo. Lots of jumping around, but that's the nature, isn't it, of looking through a module for the first time as a DM. You're kind of like trying to pitch together clues and work out you're in for this tale. So let's work out how we're going to get our characters involved. I think in my mind I'm just imagining a standard party, a fighter, a wizard, a rogue, and a cleric. So we'll have those 4 things to consider, those 4 character types to think about whilst we're in jumping into this adventure. Although I suppose it shouldn't really matter what kinds of class they are or anything, but I like to have that in my mind. You have several good options for involving your player characters in Red Hand of Doom. Part 1 assumes that you'll use the Vault Wrath hook. See below. So if you choose a different one, you'll need to make suitable adjustments to your adventure start. Basically, you can use this one. If you use the others, on your head be it. The Vault of Wrathkeep. The PCs have come across an old map in the horde of a monster they defeated prior to the adventure, or are given the map by a non-adventuring patron or sponsor. The map shows the location of Wrathkeep and hints at a hidden vault containing a great treasure. Well, that's always going to work, isn't it? As we discussed last retrospective, you can just give them money. Everyone wants money, right? No, not everyone, but a lot of people. So yes, a hidden vault containing a great treasure. When the PCs reach Drellin's Ferry, they find that treasure hunting in the Witchwood might have to wait, since marauders based in the keep are plaguing the town. Use the adventure start text provided in part 1 and run the marauder attack encounter. Okay, so that's going to start with a marauder attack. Just for fun, let's quickly read the others. War drums in the hills. Lord Jarmath of Brindle hears rumours from travellers that the goblins and hobgoblin tribes have banded together under a charismatic warlord. He hires the PCs to investigate, but when they reach Drellin's Ferry, they find that the hobgoblins are already on the move and marauders already beset the town. Begin with the encounter, marauder attack, page 14. Fantastic. So that's also saying, look, you can use the marauder attack on that one as well. Omens of Doom. A high-level cleric who is a patron or sponsor of the PCs receives a powerful vision of war descending on Elsia Vale under the banner of a clawed red hand. He sends the PCs to Drellin's Ferry to avert the foreseen disaster. They arrive just in time for the marauder attack. Nice. And then message delivery. One of the PCs accepts a job to deliver a sealed message to one Serana Anita in Drellin's Ferry. The contents of the message can be anything plausible. Notification of an inheritance, a generous job offer from Lord Jaramath of Brindle, a message from a secret lover, or perhaps details about an unusual hobgoblin activity in the lands to the north and west. Once the characters deliver the message to Serana, she'll have a new job for them, to find out what these local hobgoblins tribes are really up to in the Witchwood. My goodness. All great entries. I really like the idea of a high-level cleric having some kind of vision regarding the Red Hand. Really, really hammer home the imagery of the Red Hand of Doom because it's so evocative. It's really cool. It kind of makes you think of like the hand of Saruman, and it's kind of got that epic kind of evil foreboding vibe. So anyway, back to part 1. I wish I should have made a note of what page it was on, shouldn't I? Let's see. I do actually really like those hooks, to be honest, but at the end of the day, they all lead us here. So this is pretty much where we're starting with this marauder attack. Okay. When you're ready to get started, begin by reading aloud or paraphrasing the text below. The afternoon sun beats down on you. The air is hot and still. The sparsely settled lands of Elsia Vale are starting to grow monotonous, with a seemingly endless line of dusty fly specks of towns. The town of Drellin's Ferry lies a few miles ahead of you. It's a settlement hard on the borders of the Witchwood, and the best place from which to begin exploring the nearby forest. Very good. So then you let the players ask you questions about this so they can make any kind of preparation before they discuss what they're doing. Presumably they've had an opportunity to trade or craft magic items, add spells to spellbooks before setting out on their quest, so be generous in allowing time-consuming preparations. Once the adventure starts, the PCs will be hard-pressed to find a lot of time for such tasks. When you're ready, begin the adventure by staging the following encounter. So that's interesting. So obviously we've acknowledged that this is for level 5, I think. The very lowest suggestion was level 5 start, I think. So we can kind of assume that the players have either already done an adventure to set them up for this, or you'll have done that before. Personally, if I was starting a session, don't get me wrong, I am all for having those really long conversations about how you prepare for things, but that is not how I would start the game. I would argue doing that in a session 0, and before the game, just letting them know, listen, this is letting the players know you have a certain amount of gold, you have a certain amount of allowance for magical items and equipment and stuff. Go ham. Make sure that you're going to be prepared because you know you're going to this setting and this is the reason why you're going to this setting. So then you can let them go away and make those preparations, have a chat in the group chat before the game, because when that game starts, you want to make an immediate impression. That's at least my personal method, but there we go. I like to start with a bang. Not saying this wouldn't without that, but just so you get the momentum, you get the game going straight away. Bloodthirsty Marauders. I'm sorry, Marauder attack. EL8, so encounter level 8. Interesting. Bloodthirsty Marauders have circled around the town to watch the road leading into Drellin's Ferry. They've picked a good spot about 5 miles from the town and plan to ambush anyone who passes by. Okay, so it tells you the time of day. It's day 1. It tells you the timeline. Amazing. So this is on the timeline as day 1, start of the adventure. It's bright. Creatures, 8 hobgoblins, 2 hellhounds, 6 hobgoblins for a second wave. Wow. So that's a huge fight to start with. Well, there we go. I mean, that is your entry to the campaign, is you open, no holds barred, 8 hobgoblins and 2 hellhounds, followed by 6 hobgoblins that arrive at the end of round 4. Oh my word! Wow, that is a trial by fire. Immediate assault against the player characters. The setup: this encounter can be played out on the battle grid that depicts the area shown on the small map printed here. The initial positions of the Marauders are indicated on the map. Okay, so we don't really need to I don't know. Let's have a look and see how loyal would you be to this. It depends upon what you have. It depends upon if you're able to draw this map out correctly. And yeah, it is interesting. It is giving you the tactics of the whole encounter, which I really do like. Let's go into it and see what is recommended. We could always make tweaks, because remember, we're approaching this as if we're DMing this. We're approaching this like we're going to run this. We don't necessarily have to set all these hobgoblins up. In fact, you don't have to have as many. But to be honest, I kind of like the idea of just like a swarm of hobgoblins, because it shows the immense power of the forces that they're dealing with in this game, and they know, pardon my French, there's no fucking around. They've got to get on this because they've just been swamped by hobgoblins and hellhounds. So anyway, the initial position of the marauders are indicated on the map on the next page. R represents a hobgoblin regular warrior, H a hellhound, C the hobgoblin cleric, and B the blade bearer. Ooh. Place figures or tokens representing the PCs inside the shaded area, indicated on the small map. Each one on a rose square. Okay, at least 4 squares away from the northwest corner. So it's sort of like saying, well, this is where they're going to be. On the shaded out bit. Oh, so I guess on the edges here. They're on the road anyway. We'll take that as a given because they're travelling here. Okay, so the hobgoblins of the first wave are hiding on the eastern edge of a small stretch of woods, keeping an eye on the road. The hobgoblins in the second wave are about 100 yards further up the road, off the southern edge of the map. The marauders have the advantage of cover to hide in, so the characters must make spot checks to detect their presence, opposed by the hide checks of the hobgoblins. Make 1 check for all 6 using a hide modifier of -4. So there's a useless bunch of hobgoblins desperately trying to hide with a -4. Bless them. If not all the PCs succeeded on their spot checks, the hobgoblins gain the advantage of surprise. Players handle at 137 a surprise round against the characters who fail. That sucks. Can you imagine enduring a surprise round against that many enemies? My goodness. Surprise round, so they all come in, they roll initiative, say they go first again. That's you pretty much wiped out. First session, first encounter. The Red Hand of Doom is well named. Let's see. If you're still there, Harsh Flamingo, let me know. Is this the exact encounter that you used when you began the game? Be keen to know. When the PCs succeeded in spotting the ambushers, or when the hobgoblins are about to spring their trap, begin the encounter with the following text. The road crests a small rise and descends into a dusty grove in a large shallow dell. An abandoned farmhouse, partially visible through the trees, stands on one side of the road. You've passed a dozen spots much like this one already today, but this one feels wrong. Then you glimpse the glint of mail through the brush by the side of the road. Fierce warriors, tall, hairy humanoids with wide mouths and flat faces are lying in wait. It's not a very complimentary description of the hobgoblins, but there we are. Here they come to wreck the day. The hobgoblins are on their way. So that's pretty cool. I like the idea of it being kind of like a really mundane setting for this bloodthirsty encounter. Just a wrecked farmhouse on the side of the road, and here we go. The battle is underway. My word. Yeah, so the first hobgoblin regulars, 13 HP each. Hellhounds. Zar, who is a Doomhand cleric. Uthlar, the hobgoblin blade bearer. I'm keen to learn more about this blade bearer. It says page 119. Should we have a look at him? I'm very curious. Let's read these design notes first before we move away from the page at least. So that's the battle then. And I mean, we can all sort of work out how this battle is going to go. The regulars are all hiding along this portion of the road here, so they're the ones that are going to mash into the players first and pretty much pin them, whilst the expert or specialist hobgoblins strike from there. So that's interesting. Let's see. I like the idea, because hobgoblins are tactical. It says in every description, I think, of any hobgoblin that they are a tactical force that are competent and dangerous. So, you know, they should be pretty vicious. Sorry, I'm just setting this up. Here we go. That's better. So I can read it a bit better. That's better. Okay. The designer's notes. This encounter has a high EL because we expect that the party won't fight again before they reach the town and rest. But you should know that the EL, the encounter level, is artificially high because of the large number of hobgoblin warriors. Low-level opponents don't really contribute a lot to the challenge. The Blade Bearer, Cleric, and Hellhounds are the true foes in this fight. We assume that the Hobgoblin regulars will land a couple of lucky shots, only to be taken out by a fireball or two. If your party doesn't include an arcane spellcaster who can throw area attack spells, you might need to cut down the number of hobgoblins to suit your character manners. Well, there we go. I don't know. I'm of the opinion that lots of foes can be pretty diabolical. That's not particularly great. Because like any player can get really unlucky. And then that's it. So that is it's a bold move to start with such a powerful force. But there we are. It is a bold move. Bold move to go to have that many in there. I don't know. Pretty savage, I think. Anyway, let's have a look then after this, because this is to tactics as well. The Marauders have no reason to suspect that they're dealing with a seasoned band of adventurers when the fight begins. I don't know, level 5, I don't consider that seasoned. I know technically, I suppose they're halfway to level 10, and level 10 is technically legendary or whatever, but I think going up against, let's see, 12 hobgoblins and some experts, pretty bad. So assuming they survive anyway, let's move on, because I know, what was it we were going to look at? The Blade Bearer. Let's have a look at this Blade Bearer. I'm super keen to see what that is. Okay, so the Blade Bearer. Oh, there's all sorts in here. Oh, look at these rad stat blocks. 119, it said. My PDF reader sometimes doesn't get the right. Well, to be fair, the page might not be in there right. Let's find out. Hobgoblin regular, Hobgoblin sergeant, Hobgoblin Blade Bearer. Here we go. Oh, so it's a Hobgoblin fighter. Okay. Oh, well, that's interesting. So the Blade Bearer is just like an expert fighter Hobgoblin. That's a level 4. My God! So not only are they going against that many just normal enemies, but they're also going against leveled characters. I honestly think that it depends how many there are. Of course, if it's like a party of six or whatever, then I think they'd be fine. But if it's like a party of 4 or any less, I'd say they'd be screwed with those numbers. But that's just me. I'd be keen to learn if anyone else thinks the same, to be honest, because personally, I think that would be a death sentence. Just saying. So let's go back to where we were. That's the problem. I need to remember, because I can't just skip to pages. I need to remember the number of the page that I'm on. Do excuse the intense level of scrolling. Here we are. So Drellin's Ferry. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that the player characters are successful in beating back that overwhelming force on the road when they first begin. They arrive at Drellin's Ferry, at the spot where the Dawn Way crosses the river Elsia. stands the small town of Drellin's Ferry, once known as a dwarf bridge. As the old name implies, long ago the Elsie was spanned by a sturdy dwarf bridge, as we read in the early description. Fantastic. So Drellin's Ferry is a small town. It's conventional 800 gold piece limit. My goodness. So like that's the max gold that you can find in the whole the whole place. Assets 46,000 gold pieces. I love it. So if you wanted, I like that they give you that number, because it gives you the idea that if you had 46,000 gold pieces in your possession, which you absolutely will have in later games, at least in 3.5 anyway, you will be able to buy this town quite easily and have money left over. So that's interesting. Population of 1,150. You've got humans, halflings, dwarves, half-orcs, gnomes and elves. Very good. And it gives you a number of names of NPCs. You've got Town Speaker Norro Whiston. There is Captain Serrana Anitar that we've learned about previously. Brother Durney. I love that. So it just gives you just an idea of some of the NPCs that they can beat in this town. And you can tell them that they, if they want to speak to a particular person in this town, you are well equipped with a number of NPCs ready for you. I love that amount of effort. Fantastic. You could comfortably just run a world with this book, no question. Oh, and we've got one of these. I love these. We've got the developments, which we were discussing last time on the last page. What am I talking about? The last retrospective, which was the developments of certain encounters and certain missions. Marauder attack developments. There's an excellent chance that the PCs will capture one or more marauders, providing them with an opportunity to interrogate prisoners. Tsar, Uthlar, and the Hobgoblin regulars are religious zealots. Most would prefer to die before divulging any information at all, although a successful charm person spell could get one talking. Key facts the PCs learn include the following. The Warband base is an old human castle in the forest. The marauders serve the Worm Lord Koth, whom they describe as a mighty sorcerer. Koth's chief lieutenant... bloody hell, can't read. Koth's chief lieutenant is Karkilan, a bull-faced killer as big as an ogre. More warbands are reaving the lands around the human river town to prepare for the day of ruin. It's really cool. I love that. More warbands. I've read that. You may have one today, stupid humans, but our day is coming. The Red Hand will destroy you all. Very good. So that gives them the name of the threat, and prophesizes their eventual doom in the title. And that's really cool. I love that they gives you that little thing, because you will need more information if they survive. Oh, what are they going to learn from them? You put on the spot, and then suddenly, there we have it. So, and look, you've got a whole map of Drellin's Ferry here, with all different locations. It's incredibly detailed. So I think we've looked into that then. So I mean, yeah, because look how much information there is regarding this. I can't read all of this, but it is amazing. So when there's another encounter, which is riding into town. When the PCs reach Drellin's Ferry, presumably after defeating the Hobgoblin marauders, in the encounter at the abandoned farmhouse, they find the townsfolk making preparations to defend themselves against an attack. Oh my goodness. Okay, so they it looks like that they're preparing to defend themselves. Very interesting. Oh my god, there's just so much. It is going to be hard to break down all of this. So let's see then if I can go back to that overview. I think, because my goodness. Yeah, there's already a new adventure on the way here. So the Witchwood itself, whether they're heading off in search of raiders to drive off or hoping to find the ruined keep that we've talked about, holding long lost treasure, the PCs will venture into the Witchwood soon after arriving in Drellin's Ferry. The Witchwood is a warm forest with a mix of oaks, subtropical evergreens, and plenty of undergrowth. Any party cutting cross-country through the forest without following a trail moves at half speed and stands an excellent chance of getting very lost. Dungeon Master's Guide 86. I mean, it always should be a threat, getting lost, absolutely. The Dawnway. This trade road cuts through. We've learned about the Dawnway and the Witch Trial and Zor's cabin. A reclusive woodsman Jor lives here in a small cabin overlooking the Blackwater, a large swath of drowned forest and swampland in the middle of the Witchwood. And look, we've got another map. This time, an area map of the Witchwood. I like that very much. That is very cool. Let's see. That's better. So there's a causeway that they can cross at one point, which is looks like it's going to be a place for an encounter. The doorway passes through a large expanse of low-lying flooded forest here. The Red Hand Horde reaches the causeway on day 11, unless delayed by the PC's actions. See Approaching Doom, page 36. My goodness, so the Red Hand Horde is basically on the move, and by day 11 they'll have arrived here. A terrifying causeway, but I don't know about you, dear viewer. I'd say that causeway, that narrow pass, would be quite a good place to defend. Oh. I've just realised what is a scribe living here. A wide expanse of dark water has flooded the woodland in this low valley. Trees still protrude from the calm, dark waters here and there, but many large reaches seem to be little more than open pools of algae-choked water. The trill of frogs and the whine of insects fills the air. The forest road leads right down to the edge of the flooded section, up to a rickety-looking causeway made of thick planks of wood lashed together with mossy rope. The wooden causeway runs for several hundred feet through the boggy patch, only a foot or so above the water. My word. What is troubling is that it says, what are the what are the creatures that reside here? And it just says one Hydra. Okay, good to know. Gift of Gabby 1 says, hi, how are you doing today? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for asking. We are exploring the Red Hand of Doom, baby. Okay, so this is actually a combat between a six-headed Hydra, which actually lurks in a pool beneath the wreckage of an old wagon. So I totally missed that there's a Hydra here. My god, a Hydra, a six-headed Hydra. That's a problem. That is a huge problem. And this Hydra is actually the thing that blocks the way here. And it tells you tactics of how the Hydra would act if the players came this way. Once combat begins, the Hydra moves to within 10 feet of the causeway and uses its reach attack, remaining in the shallows. My goodness. And it just rips them to shreds. And if they don't know how to stop the Hydra's heads from growing back, they're pretty much dead. Gifted Gabby 1 says, is this just retrospective or retrospective and you're running it too? So that's a really good question. So I've actually never run this before. As I mentioned at the top, this is me looking back into the past of D&D, including particularly well-loved adventure modules, and I'm looking through it as if I was going to run it at some point. Retrospective because it is a crucial part of the history of the game. Good question though. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. Again, I can't help but feel that a 6-headed Hydra is quite a lot to deal with at such a low level. I'm pretty sure it said that this was for level 5. I could be wrong. To be fair, by this point, maybe they've encountered a few other things. Like, if we go back here, there are random encounters that they can find in the Witchwood, which I love. A random in, I love the random encounter table, because that is just your bread and butter. When you're wandering through the sandbox, you want to just run into random stuff to fight for your characters to gain XP, if that's the style of game that you like running. And that's definitely the kind of style game that I like running with this particular edition of D&D. So yeah, you can find a grey render, 1d3 of centipede swarms, 1d2 of dryads, 1d2 plus 3 dryads, 1d3 plus 1 assassin vines, a digester, etacaps, giant wasps, a gorillion, goblin warg riders, manticores, owlbears, a shambling mound, 10 drickolos, 1d2 trolls, 1d6 plus 8 sturges, a dire boar, and a giant stag beetle. Good luck, adventurers, you're going to need it. Going through the Witchwood, my goodness me. So, Gift Gabby says, like Night Below. Sure, yeah, like Night Below. I think I know Night Below. I'm running Night Below in 5e to understand history. Okay. Night Below was the first mega module, I do believe, and I'm running it. That's incredible. Well, listen, maybe I don't know Night Below. In fact, it does definitely ring a bell now that I've thought about it. Maybe that'll be one for a retrospective. We had Harsh Flamingo in here earlier, and Harsh Flamingo has run Red Hand of Doom and was giving me some great insight about it. So maybe if we do Night Below, you can let me know how you got on with your adventure. That'd be cool. It's level 1 to 10 TSR. TSR, my goodness me. Truly the history of the hobby. Really cool to hear, and thank you for dropping by, Gifted Gabby. Really, really interesting. Definitely do let us know how that adventure goes. I would be keen to hear. So yeah, we've established then that the Witchwood is crazy. And if they manage to get through that, they can reach Wrathkeep. At this time, the Red Horde has not entered the Witchwood in force. Its presence in the woods has been restricted to raiding parties, scouts, and the like. Groups intended to test the defences of their enemies and to gather intelligence about them. The organising force behind these roving bands of raiders, scouts and spies is Wormlord Koth, an ambitious bugbear sorcerer who has claimed the ruins of Wrathkeep as his headquarters until he and his forces can take Drellin's Ferry, whereupon he intends to make the old toll house his new headquarters. Wrathkeep is the primary encounter area in this chapter, is where the PCs are likely headed for anyway to investigate the rumours of treasure. If you're using the Vault of Wrathkeep adventure hook, page 5, there you are, on page 5. Great. If they can kill Wormlord Koth, they will strike a telling early blow against the Red Hand, situated near the junction of the Dawnway and Old Forest Road. Wrathkeep is visible from either road from several hundred yards away. So that is very cool. Let's see how we get on with examining Wrathkeep then, and then maybe we will just do this as a long running stream topic. I will go through all of Red Hand of Doom, and we will go through it chapter by chapter. And then if people have heard enough from this one, they might want to go, well, actually, I want to run that and get hold of it and take it away themselves. But I think it would be a neat idea to maybe do it chapter by chapter and see how we go. because I know for a fact that we're not getting through this in one stream, which I kind of knew going in, but this is, I don't want to gloss over anything too much because it's just great. We have more from Gifted Gabby, who says, it's a very early Underdark adventure that has no drow in it. They apparently aren't native to this part of the Underdark. It's 3 booklets, 64 pages long, plus 20 player handouts. That's incredible. I will definitely have to have a look at that. That is going on the list. Night Below. It is a very familiar title now that you've said it. Night Below is on the list. We shall look into it. Thanks a lot, Gifted Gabby. Really, really cool insight. And again, yeah, I'd love to hear how that adventure goes. Okay, so let's examine this encounter and delving into Wrathkeep. Okay, so it's pretty significant in its... Wow, well there he is. That's an incredible illustration. We'll come back to him. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Let's do this encounter for the rest of the stream. Rather than trying to rush through the rest of it, I think delving into Wrathkeep itself would be a great way to accent this part of the campaign. So looming out of the shadowy woods ahead is a haunting sight, a ruined keep. The old castle sits on a small rocky hillock, and you can catch glimpses of a broken tower between the trees. A moss-covered stone at the side of the road you're following marks a footpath that looks like it leads up to the keep. So you have to meander your way up to the keep, and a DC 10 soil check can tell you that numerous humanoids and several large wolves have been using this track recently. My goodness. The story of the keep. So if they've done enough research, or if they have some other way of discovering the lore of this place. Oh, no, there's more. Hang on, sorry. There was another thing to read. The old keep is in very poor repair. The gatehouse is partially collapsed, as is a section of wall to the south. A small wooden building sits next to the remains of a long abandoned garden. In front of the structure, the walls surrounding the keep are about 15 feet high, with a 2-story tower looming in the southwest corner of the courtyard within. Large boulders lie strewn amidst the ruins of the 2 watchtowers. And a massive humanoid skeleton slumped amid the ruins of the northern one. This skeleton still wears tattered fragments of hind armour, and a large club lies next to one of its bony arms. My goodness, it's like a dead giant there. The body of a dead giant. My goodness me. Let's see. Gift of Gabby says... Matt Colville talks about it a lot. That might be where I've heard of it then, because I do watch some of Colville stuff. Of MCDM fame. There's also 20 DM handouts like Art of the Starting Town. Night Below is an epic dungeon-based campaign designed to take player characters from 1st level to 10th level and beyond. The adventure begins in Harrenshire, a detailed but not over large above ground milieu of villages, hills, forests and other sites. Night Below has been expressly written so that a DM can integrate it into any setting. Wow. Okay. Definitely consider me sold. What begins as an investigation disappearances into it. Okay, we will definitely go into that, Gift to Gabby. We will definitely look into that. And I really do appreciate you suggesting it to me, because that's I want to look into the adventures that people are keen about and that they love. Because then I can get insight from them as well, because that'll be another one that I don't know. So anyway, all that to say, let's go back to them looking at this giant skeleton then, and then we get the story of the keep. That Wrathkeep has a tragic history, as the ruins and skeletal remains attest. For centuries, trade through the Witchwood used the Dawnway, and the soldier stations at Wrathkeep were the primary defenders of the region. Their presence kept the roads safe for merchants to travel. My goodness. I'm not going to read all of that, because that's how I started reading it. I was like, that's quite big. But basically, it's a ruined keep that is the home of this worm lord Koth. So you enter via the ruined gatehouse. The keep's gatehouse has seen better days. The watchtowers to either side have partially collapsed and large boulders lie strewn about. The decayed remains of 2 sets of large wooden gates lie in a heap on the ground. And look at that map. That's incredible. Next time, what I might do is I might take shots of the map so I can have the map up on the screen with me whilst we're doing that. I think, because then we'll have the map with us as we're reading about the various sections, and we can sort of refer to it like we were doing with the Burning Plague. So I'll arrange that for next time. It will involve me having to look ahead, but I think it might be beneficial for me to do so, just to get some for the quality of the stream, and to make it so we can refer to the imagery rather than having to keep scrolling backwards and forwards. Let's see. So we've got the crashed gateway. We have Gardener's Shack, which is a small wooden shack that sits to the east of the keep itself. Very good. And from there you can hear timbers creaking and straining. One round after the shack fails it save the structure. Oh, so the structure can come crashing down. I like that, because it's so often that you wander into ruins and places that people haven't been for hundreds of years, and you know, moving through them should be pretty dangerous. They should be pretty dangerous structures. So the idea that is just an encounter, the Gardener's Shack hasn't got any monsters in it whatsoever. It's just really old and might collapse if you go in it, which is honestly a genuine threat. Rocks fall. My goodness. The courtyard. No creatures here. The courtyard is hard-packed earth. The courtyard is of hard-packed earth. Has an eerie air of desolation. Jagged boulders embedded in the ground seem to have dropped here, or thrown from a great distance. So what I'm getting here with all the boulders around here, I don't know about you guys, but giants tend to throw quite a lot of boulders, don't they? So I suspect with the huge giant corpse outside that this was once probably attacked by giants, maybe? 2 massive skeletons lie at opposite ends of the courtyard. One propped up by the watchtower and the other sprawled by the far end. To the south, where a section of the keep's outer wall has collapsed, a 3rd giant skeleton lies partially buried in the rubble. Well, there we go. A character who searches the courtyard for tracks has the same chance of learning information as in Area 1. We will go back and check that another time. For now, let's just get an overview of this place. So there's a north tower. Okay, so this partially collapsed tower holds nothing of interest. Which, to be honest, is a good detail to include. Sometimes it just isn't. There aren't things there. Sometimes there are dead ends. Not everything has to have a story hook. Not everything has to have a magic item within it, or an enemy. Sometimes the north tower is just the north tower. The south tower. This area holds nothing of interest. Okay, and I guess the south tower is like the north tower. There's nothing in the towers. Don't bother with the towers. So we'll just move on. Let's stop talking about the towers. I love that it says the Wrathkeep developments. Oh, wow. Yeah, let's have a look at this. Why not? If the PCs are forced to retreat from the keep and return at a later date, they find that Koth and his minions are on the alert. If any of the keep's defenders were killed, there is a 50% chance per day that groups returning from scouting the forest made up for the loss. Wow, so if you, for whatever reason, realise, oh my god, we're not equipped for this and fall back, then there's a 50% chance per day that they get reinforced by more hobgoblins. Yowzers. If the PCs assault the keep a second time but retreat again, Wormlord Koth decides to give up his prime location in return for safety. Besides, he needs to report the presence of adventurers this powerful back to his commanders. He and any surviving... There you go, we were talking about the spies earlier. Well, the Wormlord Koth is just one of those. He's going to give that information to the higher-ups. He and any surviving minions abandoned Wrathkeep and withdraw to the north to rejoin the rest of the Red Hand Horde, leaving the ruins abandoned. See, that's smart. Why would they stay there? Oh my god, these adventurers keep smashing their way into this keep. They've done it twice now. No doubt they're going to do it a third time. Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here and make sure that we get as much information from them as possible. It's smart. There's a good chance that the PCs capture at least some of Koth's minions. As long as they believe Koth is alive, the goblins and humanoids are very resistant to attempts to get them to talk. They're more afraid of Koth than any player character, and gain a +4 circumstance bonus on checks to resist intimidate efforts. Yeah, I mean, they could be like, everything that you can do to us is nothing in comparison to what the Worm Lord is capable of. You know, not to mention what the High Worm Lord will do. The High Worm Lord! What a name! Okay, so there's a number of developments that follows. The Wormlord Koth was responsible for gathering information about the defences of the region in preparation for a large assault on Drellin's Ferry. There's not a real ghost in the tower. Oh, so there's a ruin. I did skim past that. There's a rumour that there's a ghost in the tower, but it's all fake to keep everyone from coming to the keep and snooping around. There is a great army gathering up in the worm smokes somewhere on the far side of Skull Gorge. A green dragon has visited the keep 3 times. Oh, each time it spoke with Koth, but no one else. The goblins know the green dragon is named Ozyrandian, and he serves the Red Hand as a messenger and scout. None of the goblins know where the dragon lives, or what conversations with Koth were about. The assault on Drellin's Ferry is scheduled to take place soon. If things go according to plan, the assault on Day 12 of the adventure, either 8 days from now or 9 days from now, is appropriate for the current date in your game's timeline. My goodness! So look at all that useful information you get from interrogating the hobgoblins. That's pretty great. I like that very much, and I love that you're learning all these little nuanced secrets about the fact that the ghost tower is actually all fake, and that you can learn that the dragon, the green dragon that we heard about before, Ozyrandian, is actually serving the Red Hand as a messenger and a scout. That means that word can reach the enemy super fast. Like, how quickly can a dragon cross the land? Far quicker than any player character, that's for sure. There's warg stables that they might stumble across. 2 goblins and 2 wargs within. So that's a vicious encounter in its own right. Warg riders. Talking about Saruman earlier. Goodness me. There's a spike-littered nest with a manticore inside. Jesus Christ. This is all, by the way, assuming they survived being attacked by a hydra earlier. Like, what the hell? Spike-littered nest, 1 manticore. Jeez. What this squat building might once have been used for is unclear. All the furniture has been crushed into rubble, and a large nest-like mound of tree branches, bones, and bits of foul-smelling animal parts, and long, thin spikes of some sort of black material fills the northwest corner of the room. A gaping hole in the roof in the northwest corner provides a view of the sky above. My goodness. So if they go in there, they're screwed. Because look at the image of the manticore raining down spiky hell upon the player characters. And look at that image of the giant skeleton. Fantastic work. Look at that. The bones of a long dead giant provide impromptu cover against a manticore's strafing. That's super cool. So yeah, you fight the manticore by the looks like. If combat begins in the room, the manticore flies out of the building through the hole in the roof and perches on the edge, from which point it fires tail spikes down on any foe it can see. We do love a manticore. I'm a huge fan of the manticore personally. They're ugly as sin, but they're pretty great in a fight. And then there's the barracks with 4 hobgoblins and a minotaur. How are they meant to do this in one go? They said if the players fall back. If the players fall back, there isn't a chance that players of middle levels aren't falling back at this rate. Against a manticore and against... Oh my word. Minotaurs and hobgoblins and wargs. We're going to get another design note saying, we just assume that they're all going to be taken out by the fireballs. We have Emily, 38, Silaster from Knights of the Apocalypse himself, Michael Hunter in the chat. Good to see you, buddy. I twisted their arms into dropping by. So glad to see him. That is incredible art, isn't it? The artwork for the Manticore was great, but look at the art for the Worm Lord Koth himself. Look at that bugbear. How cool is that bugbear? Look at, he's even got the heraldry of the Red Hand. And he's got a frog on his shoulder. That's cool. Oh, of course, he's a sorcerer, so that's his familiar. How rad. Okay, Wormlord Koth plots the destruction of Drellin's Ferry for the greater glory of the Red Hand. And there he is. Let's read this because this sounds quite funny. Inside the barracks where there's the one Minotaur, this interior stone building is open and spacious. Wooden timbers support the roof above, and here and there are the remains of what were probably once interior dividing walls are evident. Two large boulders, more boulders, sit on the floor to the south near a large hole that had been knocked into the southeast wall. Rubble from this hole has been piled in a circle to form a crude fire pit. Against the west wall of the room are arranged 4 double bunk beds, each strewn with filthy covers. Okay, so it's just Oh, that's funny. That's why I wanted to read. Another bed, this one larger, sits near the south wall, partially obscured by a badly damaged wooden screen. A poorly stuffed owlbear looms in the centre of the room. I'm very happy to say that there is a stuffed owlbear. Yo, says Michael. Yo, dude. Wormlord Koth's personal entourage of hobgoblin veterans has taken up residence in this room. Next to the stuffed owlbear. There was something where they talk about it. The stuffed owlbear in the middle of the room represents Koth's attempt at amateur taxidermy. And he and his hobgoblins found these creatures living in the ruins when they first arrived. Oh no! So there was an owlbear living in here and they just stuffed it. Oh. Leave the owlbear alone. But too late now. You know for a fact. You know how last time, I don't know if anyone watched the last stream, I said, you know for a fact that there's that one player that will drink the evil looking stew. There's a stew and no doubt someone will try and drink that. Well, I tell you, there's no doubt in my mind whatsoever that a player character will come back for that stuffed owlbear. When they get a keep for the first time or a base, they're like, we want the stuffed owlbear. They will come back for that. Carcaleon, the male Minotaur, is waiting with the hobgoblin veterans, and battle rages where... How can you fight all these monsters in one go? Oh, look! And they've got their own map. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to screenshot the map for the next stream, because... this is a map of the area of the Witchwood and beyond, and in red letters is marked with all of the hobgoblins' annotations. That's incredible. Not worth burning, the Newman Gap. Good plunder of Talar, Brindle, Walls, day 35. Ooh, heavy resistance possible. Destroy all in our path at the Witch Cross. All tribes muster here under Khan. Koth's base. My God. I love that. What a fantastic detail. So not only have they given you a zoomed in area map here of the Witchwood, but they've also given it in the style of it being taken from the hobgoblins. That's incredible. I love that so much. There better be a stuffed owlbear for us in the next session, says Mike. Your wish is my command. Where are you? yeah, sure. And amidst the king's funeral, we will find you a stuffed owlbear. Mike, how about that? I'm in love with that. I love that idea of the area map being annotated by the enemies. It makes so much sense as well. My goodness. Okay, so finally, after all this, they make their way to Wormlord Koth's quarters. Wormlord Koth. The circular chamber has been outfitted with a mix of furniture, including a desk, a large desk, an overstuffed chair, massive four-poster bed, and a large easel that holds a sizable canvas covered with a sheet. A flight of stairs arcs up along the south wall to the upper floor. A fair amount of rubble from a hole in the ceiling lies heaped on the base of the stairs. This chamber is claimed by Wormlord Koth, the leader of this band of hobgoblin soldiers. Of the 4 current Wormlords, Koth is the newest. As a result, he realises he needs to prove his worth to the Red Hand. So there's our motivation for the secondary or tertiary villain in this case. And he has volunteered to lead the scouts and spies into human lands as a way to make his mark. Koth spends a fair amount of his time here in his quarters, going over reports supplied to him by the spies and scouts. Unknown to Koth, the secret door in the floor of this room leads down to an underground vault. This trapdoor can be discovered with a successful DC 25 search check, which is probably what the players have. Remember, we discussed about the players being given a map to some treasure of some kind. So maybe this is the one advantage that we can give the players against the hordes of death that await them. If it's not manticores or minotaurs or stuffed owlbears, something's going to bring them down. You got to give them some kind of edge. So maybe this hidden passageway is something that no one knows about. Wormlord Koth and indeed everyone else. This is something that only the players would know. That's what I would include. Wormlord Koth, male bugbear sorcerer, level 6. A level 6 sorcerer. Not to be sniffed at. In the unlikely event that the PCs catch Koth in this room without raising an alarm, that's confidence for you, they find the bugbear studying his documents. His preference is to flee from combat, either up to Area 11 or out to Area 8 for assistance, depending on the character's direction of approach. If no allies remain, he drinks his potion of fly and flies to a safe distance. He just runs away. I mean, again, play the villain smart. If he's on his own and he's a sorcerer, yeah, he's going to want to fly away. Fly, and flies to a safe distance. There he uses his scroll to create a mount, riding off to the north to Skull Gorge Bridge to warn the troops there, where they then have to fight through another horde of enemies. Oh my goodness. Oh, I love that. He then seeks out Karkalan and retreats with the Minotaur back to his room. Oh, so him and the Minotaur. Oh, I like that. So then that's the real battle then there. If the Minotaur isn't already beaten, then it's him and Koth, Karkalan and Koth, and the rest of the hobgoblins clash against the player characters. Should he find himself in battle, Koth casts Shield, increasing his AC and flat-footed AC by 4. Opens combat by casting Blindness Deafness, because why would you not? Hoping to neutralise a rogue or an arcane spellcaster. Yeah, I mean, fair play. Blind them, then they can't do that shit. He uses Ray of Enfeeblement against melee combatants, and if he can line up at least 2 player characters, he lets loose with Lightning Bolt. So he's packing sorcerer spells. Once forced into melee, the Wormlord relies on his Wand of Magic Missile in preference to his Morning Star. Although overconfident, Koth is not completely foolhardy. If reduced to 10 or fewer hit points again, he drinks his Potion of Fly and retreats to the Skull Gorge Bridge as described above. Oh my word. So if he's got out at that point, then there we go. And then finally we have the developments. So from there then, from facing Wormlord Koth, they'll have a key hostage if they take him alive. His attitude is hostile, as they expect. So spells such as Charm Person, Detect Thoughts and Suggestion might prove successful. Or might prove to be necessary to successfully interrogate him, rather. See, I like that it's giving you this. It's equipping you for the hunt for the knowledge that you will undoubtedly need to bring down the Red Hand of Doom. You're going to need to learn more about them. And that is certainly true here, that you have the opportunity to learn here. So Koth is one of the commanders of the Red Hand forces, but he's also the newcomer. Azar-Kul hasn't entrusted him with everything yet, which is very clever, because he's still new. He's trying to prove himself. He's not privy to the High Worm Lord's plans. But Koth can still give the PCs a lot of information. If they ask the right questions, he can certainly provide the same amount of information known to a captured goblin or hobgoblin. So this is what they might learn if they're successful in interrogating Koth. That the Red Hand Horde is gathering at Cinder Hill and preparing to march on Drellin's Ferry. The Horde includes several thousand goblinoid warriors under the command of fanatical priests of Tiamat. 4 commanders or worm lords lead the Red Hand. Koth, a goblin ranger named Saravith, a hobgoblin bard named All-Wise Stormcaller, and a hobgoblin Talon of Tiamat named Hravik Khan. Koth knows that Sarvith has been sent to the ruined city of Rest on a special mission, and that Wormlord Khan commands the Horde itself, but he isn't sure where Ulwai is or what she's up to. The High Wormlord who rules over them all is a fearsome draconic humanoid named Azar-Kul, a powerful cleric of Tiamat. Azar-Kul dwells in a massive temple in the heart of the mountains, but Koth does not know the exact location. The Red Hand Horde contains dozens of hobgoblin, goblin, bugbear, and orc tribes from the Wormsmoke Mountains. Several dragons serve Azar-Kul as advisors and subcommanders. Koth himself has contact with only one of them, a green dragon named Ozyrandian, as we learned earlier. Skull Gorge Bridge is a key site to the Horde's descent from the mountains. Destroying the bridge will delay the Red Hand's march by several days, and Drellin's Ferry is where the initial assault will fall on Ulcir Vale. Koth intended to lead the attack personally. In his absence, he suspects Ozyrandian or some other chieftain or champion will lead this attack. Simply taking Koth out of the picture won't save Drellin's Ferry. And it's right, as they explained in the campaign overview at the very beginning. There is very little at this stage in the campaign that you're going to be able to do to prevent the Red Hand of Doom just descending on Drellin's Ferry. Some battles you won't be able to win, particularly this early when you don't have any forces to help you. My word. And that, it would seem, would be an excellent place to round it up, I think. Let's see. How are we doing for time? Yeah, I think that's great. So, I mean, listen, I think I'm going to come back and we're going to carry on, I think. We will carry on delving into the Red Hand of Doom. Let's put us on that excellent map there while we sign out. So far, I've been wholly intrigued and impressed by the level of detail and nuance there is to the writing and preparation and to the inspiration that is provided by this adventure module. I'm already getting a feeling of how I'd like to run this if I was going to run it. Yeah, it's just really, really, really fascinating. I know I'm afraid that I haven't done it entirely justice, because obviously before you reach the keep here, there's all sorts of different adventures that you can go on the way, which is exactly what a good sandbox campaign should include. There should be lots of things that you find along the way, but in terms of like points that I know are going to be crucial elements that push the larger motives of the key players, yeah, that is pretty impressive. So I'm going to call it there, I think. I hope those of you watching don't mind how sporadic and kind of all over the place I am with this. As I mentioned before, this is my first delving into this module, and I decided to go in completely blind, so I could discover, with those also unfamiliar with this, the exciting details that are included in this module. Those who recommended Red Hand of Doom did not undersell how awesome this is. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how there could be any chance of facing and defeating the High Worm Lord. incredible stuff. So if you would like to see more videos, or if you like this video, give it a like, and if you'd like to see more like it, then give us a subscribe if you're watching after the fact. And a huge thank you for those who have dropped in to the stream whilst we've been live. A huge thank you to the veteran Harsh Flamingo, who has already played the Red Hand of Doom and run it for his players. A huge thanks to Gift of Gabby. We're definitely going to check out what was it called again? The Night Below. We're definitely going to check out Night Below after Gift of Gabby's recommendation. And thanks for dropping by, Mike, as well, and saying hi in the chat as well. You never know, maybe I'll rob some of this for our campaign Knights of the Apocalypse. We will see. Anyway, all that to say, wherever you've watched this, thanks ever so much for watching. And I hope, he says, getting the thing ready, and I hope that all of your performances are up to standard.